How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of Hot Takes with Holmes here from Radio Free Radford. Get this situated real quick. My name is Blake Holmes, and as always, I'm here with my co-host, Isaiah Addair. He will have to leave the broadcast a little bit early today due to a meeting with a professor that he does have at 2:30, but nevertheless, we're still going to stick around. He'll be here for as long as we can, and we're going to talk about the same thing we always do, a little bit of sports here. So, as always, if you like what you hear on Radio Free Radford, you want to support the station, then be sure to follow those social media pages. Their Twitter is at Radio Free Raddy, Instagram and Facebook are both Radio Free Radford. That's at Radio Free Raddy, and Instagram and Facebook are Radio Free Radford. Be sure to follow those social media pages to be able to keep up with the great content that comes live on this station each and every single day. But with that being said, stick around with us, as today we're going to be talking about the recent action on the NBA, NCAA, and the AAF. However, let's start like we always do at this time of year with college basketball. So, going on with some college basketball, we talked about Radford. We talk about Radford all the time with this, and they collapsed. There's no other way to say it. In the end of the season, they got a big win over High Point, and it looked like they were going to potentially have a good shot to close out the Big South. Instead, the game to win it all at Campbell, they lose by 2. Chris Clemens, masterful in this game. As we all know what Chris Clemens is for the Campbell Fighting Camels. We take a look at the box score of this game. Chris Clemens with 30 in the game. We also look at Udy, another senior 4. Campbell had 19, and it was really the efforts of those two guys that got the win. So because of that game, and because Campbell gets a big-time win on their home floor and on their senior day, Radford now goes on the road, as of right now, for the Big South tournament, which is hosted and at Campbell. So, Isaiah, what are your thoughts on the end of the season? Do you think that this was a low for Radford? Do you think that there's still a chance that they need to pick some things up? And do you still think that they have a shot to win the Big South?
I mean, they only have, just a game or two left, I think. So there's not a lot of basketball left to play. I think there is a shot at, but if they don't get it together, like especially if the tournament's held at Campbell, it's going to be very difficult for Radford to win if it's in Campbell, if the tournament's there. For one, I'm pretty sure it's Chris Clemens last year. So he's already put the team on his back. He's scoring, seems like 30 every night, buzzer beaters, kind of like Carleek was last year, except Chris Clemens is more developed as a player, more polished, older, more experienced. So I don't know, Radford, if they don't start playing a little better in the last, I think, game or two that's left. Of course, there's still a chance Radford can get it done and bring it back here. But do I expect it? Not as much. And if they don't get it together, going to Campbell to play in the tournament is not going to end well for Radford.
And I'll just be honest. I mean, you take a look at what the Big South tournament has been past couple of years, and what does it always come down to? That one player, the X factor, that's going to come in, and that goes for all professional, for all basketball. It's not just college basketball at the Big South tournament. You take a look at the NCAA tournament, NBA playoffs even. It all comes down to who is that guy that's going to take you to the next step and take you into the playoffs. I think Chris Clemens is that guy for Campbell, but I also think Radford has that guy in Carleek Jones right now. Carleek, after Chris Clemens goes, is going to be the face of the Big South. I truly believe that. Now, Chris Clemens, where he's a little bit older, he's still experienced. He's still a good point guard, obviously. You can't be top 10 in NCAA points all time without being a good point guard. And I think he'll be a good second-round find for somebody in the NBA draft coming up. But for Campbell to have the tournament at home, I got to say this for Radford. One, they will get the winner of either UNC Asheville or Presbyterian. That game will be played tonight on Thursday. So the question remains at that point, if they can get past Presbyterian or UNC Asheville, you better believe they are hoping that Campbell gets beat before the championship game. Similar story to what happened last year. UNC Asheville hosted the tournament last year, but Liberty knocked them out. Of course, Liberty not in the Big South anymore, but knocked off UNC Asheville. And so when it came to the Big South Championship, it was played at Dedmon. if you are Radford, you hope you can get that game at Dedmon again, and you hope that someone can come in and beat Campbell. Maybe they will play the winner of Charleston Southern and USC Upstate. So you want either one of those, or even into the next round, they will get the winner of Gardner-Webb and High Point, whoever wins that game. So Gardner-Webb and High Point are tough teams. They're not slouches by any means. Winthrop is the 3 seed. They would have to play with Radford if both teams won their next game. So still some good matchups coming up. And it's going to be tougher. It's going to be a lot tougher than we were maybe hoping for Radford to potentially make it out of the Big South. Moving on and looking at a more national scale, of course, like we always do, we're looking at the AP polls which were released yesterday. We have Gonzaga still at number 1 and UVA at number 2. That was really the only consistent team that stayed where they were. We see UNC move into the top 3 for the first time this year, if I'm not mistaken, being the number 3 spot at 24-5. The Duke Blue Devils still remain toward the top of the polls, even with a loss at 25-4. And Tennessee is number 5 team, 26-3. Kentucky, after taking a drumming by Tennessee in Knoxville, going down to the 6th seed. And Michigan back into the top 7 at 26-4. Duke in the 4th spot also received still a first place vote, and North Carolina did not as the 3 team. So, Isaiah, what are your thoughts on the rankings? Do you think that they got it right, or do you still think there are some teams that aren't being represented well in this AP poll?
To be frank, I am so confused right now. You look at a team like Houston, it's 27-2, and they are ranked 12. They just lost the game and fell down 4 spots. Lost only their 2nd game of the year. You have a team like Tennessee, 26-3, they're ranked 5. And you have UNC, good team, granted, but 24-5, and then Duke, 25-4, receiving a first place vote, like you said. Duke has lost 3 straight, I believe now, 2 or 3 straight. I don't understand, first of all, how they received a first place vote, how they're ahead of Tennessee. In a way, I don't even know how they're ahead of like Michigan and University of Kentucky, because without Zion Williamson, they're not a top 5 basketball team. In my opinion, they're not, because they haven't been able to win without him. Since he got hurt against UNC, it's been loss after loss, and I think that's, for one, like if Zion comes back and decides he doesn't want to play and he wants to save himself, I don't think he will decide that. But if he does decide that, they're going to need to figure things out, or else they're not getting past the 1st or 2nd round of the tournament. And I just, 1 first place vote after dropping two straight. I don't get it.
I do want to correct you a little bit here. Duke actually, the only loss they had this week was to Virginia Tech on the road. So it's still a tough road environment for them to go to Blacksburg and for them to have to face a tough Hokies team that is still ranked in the top 25, even though at times we've wondered why that is the case. But obviously they showed that when they beat Duke. I believe it's actually a funny stat. I believe it's either 2 or 3 times straight that Virginia Tech has knocked off Duke at Castle Coliseum. So Virginia Tech winning that game, but they beat Syracuse and they beat a Miami team who Miami is just not great this year. They're not the same team that we're used to seeing from them. RJ Barrett has been the main playmaker with Zion Williamson out right now, but still I can see what you're saying with Duke losing a game. They've lost 25-4. This was a team that we were talking at the beginning of the year going undefeated. Like, this was a team that we thought was a legitimate shot to be the next undefeated team, be one of the greatest teams in college basketball history. Now they've lost 4 games. Tennessee, the reason why they're ranked number 5 right now is, yes, even though they did beat Kentucky pretty handily at Thompson Bowling Arena, you have to take a look at what they did at Rupp in Kentucky, and they got dominated. And then they lose another game at LSU. Again, LSU, a little bit of controversy as well, but those 2 games in SEC play when it mattered the most, that's the main reason why they weren't necessarily seen as a top-tier team right now. They still are a good team. They still have a chance come the NCAA tournament to be able to do something and go on a deep run. But as of right now, they are the number 5 seed. I like Kentucky being at the number 6 as well. And Houston, they did lose that game and they dropped 4 spots. But here's the reason why. Because they play in the American Conference. There's really not that much competition right now. In the past couple of years, we have not seen the same UConn team. We haven't seen the same Connecticut team, obviously, like I said. And there just isn't a ton of competition besides maybe your Cincinnati in the American Conference that is going to push Houston to really push their game up. And that is why I think they are the number 12 spot and falling 4 spots. Because remember, in college basketball, as much as records can mean things, and as much as you like looking at the records of teams, that isn't necessarily the entire story when it comes to the rankings. So that was the national polls and just some of the teams that are up there right now. Of course, we're getting into conference tournament times. We're starting to get towards the end of the regular season. So here in the upcoming weeks, we'll start to get an idea of who we think will be in the NCAA tournament and what seedings and whatnot from there. So going away from college basketball, we'll go to the Alliance of American Football, the AAF. They just finished I believe it's their 4th or 5th week. I believe it was the 4th week. It's... Let's check here. Yes, it was week 4 in the AAF, and we saw a few games. Of course, the Memphis Express got their first win of the season against the San Diego Fleet, 26-23. Orlando Apollos, they stay undefeated at 4-0, beating the Salt Lake City Stallions, 20-11. The San Antonio Commanders actually give Birmingham their first loss of the season, 12-11. And the Atlanta Legends pick up their first win of the season as well against the Arizona Hotshots, 14-11. So we take a look at what does that do for the standings of the teams right now? Well, makes them a little bit more even. When we take a look at the Eastern Division, the only undefeated team left is the Orlando Apollos at 4-0. The Birmingham Iron are still at 3-1, still an impressive record in the Eastern Division. The Atlanta Legends and the Memphis Express are both tied at 1-3 at the bottom. On the Western Division, we have the Arizona Hotshots, the San Antonio Commanders, the San Diego Fleet. All three of them 2-2. San Diego Fleet, Terrell Watson being big in the running game so far for them, and Salt Lake City is at the bottom at 1-3. So, what are your thoughts on the AAF so far? Once again, we do this every single week. What are your thoughts? Who have been your main guys to look out for, and what do you think the rest of the season has entailed for us?
I don't know. The West is weird because, to be honest, I envisioned a day in some sport where a whole conference would finish with the same record. But it looks like it's a real possibility for the first year of the AAF, which could be good for ratings, could be really bad. The Arizona Hotshots look like contenders the first 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks, they've fallen. They've fallen so much. I honestly look for them to put in Trevor Knight, who was a first-round draft pick of the quarterback draft this year. To kind of just get a change of pace. He's more of a ground threat as well. Tim Tebow's type player. Then look at the East. Orlando has been insane, and next week they play Birmingham. So that's going to be the battle of two heavyweights. I still think that the Orlando Apollos, coached by Steve Spurrier, a Hall of Fame NFL coach, NCAA coach, I think that they definitely have the upper hand. They have better coaching. Their players are coming from Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Alabama, University of Alabama. So it's insane. Just all around the talent they have, the filtering they have into the league or into their team, and I see them being the champions right now. But I think this past week was crucial in that it showed the Apollos are the best team by far.
Well, you're talking about Orlando as well. Of course, as you mentioned, they are coached by the great ball coach in Steve Spurrier, but their quarterback is Garrett Gilbert. This is a guy who played for the Carolina Panthers and wasn't necessarily anything spectacular for them. And he goes into the Orlando Apollos for this AAF season, and he's just been phenomenal in the passing game. And it's the main reason that Orlando has found themselves out to this 4-0 start. So Garrett Gilbert, a main and surprising playmaker for Orlando, as again we enter the 5th week of the regular season. And the 5th week, you can expect to see more action on Saturday and Sunday. On Saturday, Orlando will Orlando will travel to Birmingham, like you said, at 2 p.m. You can catch that on TNT. The Salt Lake City Stallions will go to San Diego to take on the Fleet at 8 p.m. on NFL Network. Memphis will travel to Atlanta to take on the Legends at 4 p.m. on Sunday. That is on the CBS Sports Network. And the San Antonio Fleet will travel to Arizona to take on the Hotshots at 8 p.m. on NFL Network. So again, AAF football on your way for Week 5, and be sure to tune in. The NBA basketball season, on the other hand, is just as close as we know, and a few surprises, of course, mainly being the Los Angeles Lakers, but we'll get into that a little bit further on. We're going to talk about the standings here for a little bit. On the Eastern Conference side, we have the Milwaukee Bucks, the first team to clinch a playoff spot at 48-16. Who would have expected them to be this good right now? 48-16. The Toronto Raptors are right behind them at 46 and 18. The Indiana Pacers, without Victor Oladipo, still holding strong in the 3 seed, 41 and 23. The Philadelphia 76ers are the 4 seed right now at 40 and 23. Number 5 is the Boston Celtics at 38 and 26. The Detroit Pistons are on a little bit of a run right now, 31 and 31 in the 6th spot. The Brooklyn Nets are 33 and 33 in the 7th spot, and the Orlando Magic round out the playoffs at 30 and 35. Charlotte and Miami right behind them by about a game and a half. So, Isaiah, what are your thoughts in the East? Do you think that there are some teams that are in the playoffs right now that will get into the playoffs? And what are your thoughts on the teams, and especially the Bucks clinching a playoff spot?
So first, I'd like to talk about the Bucks clinching a playoff spot. That's insane. I knew Giannis would be an MVP candidate. And personally, one of my favorite players. I did not expect them to be running the whole league right now and having the best record in the league, above Toronto by 2 games, above Golden State by 3.5. Didn't expect that. I expected like 3rd or 4th seed, maybe 2nd to Toronto. After that, a team that's not in playoffs that I think could be, I'm gonna go Charlotte. Charlotte actually not being a single game back, it appears, from Orlando. I assume it's a tiebreaker at that point. The reason that they're the 9th seed right now. I could see that, and I could also see Miami and Dwayne Wade's last run. Dwayne Wade, this past week, last night, jumping Michael Jordan for most blocks by a guard in their career. Just put on a show last night. I could see either Charlotte or Miami, or maybe even both, jump into the 7th and 8th spots. I would like to see it, and I think it's definitely possible. So yeah, I would say if I had to pick between those, it'd be Charlotte replacing Orlando probably.
Let me tell you who my sleeper team in the Eastern Conference playoffs is right now. At the 7th spot, the Brooklyn Nets, with the way they've played, the way they've exceeded expectations this year, if they can get to the 6th spot, they play the Indiana Pacers, that is a team that I might put on upset alert, because I really do like this Brooklyn Nets team. After destroying their franchise in a trade back in the early 2010s, and a trade for Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, very old and aging Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Again, a move that almost destroyed their franchise and got rid of their first-round picks. They're finally on the open up again. D'Angelo Russell I think he's my favorite right now. Him and De'Aaron Fox to win Most Improved Player. Jarrett Allen down low as well. This is a good basketball team right now at the 7th spot. But Milwaukee, again, I expect them to be maybe the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, not 48 and 16 and the best team in the NBA record-wise, and a lot of power rankings as well have them as the number 1 spot. In the Western Conference, Golden State, who else, leads the West at 44 and 19. The Denver Nuggets are right behind them at 42 and 21. 2 games back, and they have been on a little bit of a slide. They've lost 3 straight. The Oklahoma City Thunder are 39 and 24. They are 3 games back from the 3 seed, 5 games back from the 1 at 39 and 24. Portland is tied with Oklahoma City at 39-24. Houston is 38-25, a game back from the next seed. Utah is 36-27. The LA Clippers 37-29, and the San Antonio Spurs, Greg Popovich and crew, at 36-29. Sacramento now back 3 games to the playoffs, and LA 5.5 games back from the playoffs with about 19 games to go. So is it time? The Lakers, they've been a very underachieving team this year, and it's time to ask, is it possible, and do you think the Lakers have a shot in the dark right now that they're going to make the playoffs at the 8th spot? And even then, the odds are they'll have to play the big bad Golden State Warriors in the first round if they somehow pulled it out.
I don't think they do. Just because looking at which teams are hot, which teams are cold, the way teams are playing, I don't see anyone in the Western Conference that I can honestly envision slipping out of playoffs right now. And it's not just a matter of LA stepping it up and earning a spot. It's also a matter of someone taking a step back and letting LA take their spot. And I don't see it. If any team, I could see it being the Clippers, but they're on a 3-game win streak. So I don't even fully see that happening. Again, potential that the Clippers fall out and the Lakers are able to grab the 8th spot with San Antonio moving up, but I don't see it happening.
I'm gonna tell you my honest opinion right now, because again, this is a tough battle in the Western Conference. I'm gonna tell you my honest opinion though, in that I believe the Sacramento Kings are a better basketball team right now than the Los Angeles Lakers, and they are the 9th spot. So you take a look at who else is in the playoffs right now. And once again, you still have the Golden State Warriors. You still have the Nuggets, the Thunder, the Blazers, the Rockets, the Jazz, the Clippers, and the Spurs. I believe that all of those teams have played and are better basketball teams right now than the Los Angeles Lakers. Yes, they have the best player in the world. That is true. The best player in the world has also had a horrible problem on defense lately, where he just leaves his man, and then you take a look at the next spot, the next possession, and he's blaming other players for missing his assignment. Like, he's the best player in the world. Again, he's probably the greatest player of all time. It's still an argument. You can still make that argument right now. But to say that he is right now going to lead this team to the playoffs, as bad as they've played, especially with Lonzo Ball still injured, I just don't see it. I don't think this team is better than the 8 seed. I don't even think they're better than 9 of the teams that are the 9 teams that are ahead of them. So for me to say that they're going to come back from 5.5 games back in 19 games, the odds are unlikely, especially since they just lost to the Clippers last night. Patrick Beverley had a lot of fun with that as well. So yeah, the Lakers 5.5 games back. They also, due to some percentage chances right now, they are a 1% chance to make the playoffs and a 1% chance to get the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. So both with a chance. And you know how the lottery works. Imagine this. This is a team, like I said, in a little bit of disarray right now, but LeBron James and Zion Williamson on the same team. It would be ridiculous. Odds are heavily against it, but it's possible at this point. And we want to talk about some MLB baseball here just a little bit. Bryce Harper was the main story this week, of course, with the Philadelphia Phillies. There have been reports that he could have potentially got a deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers for 4 years and close to $45 million a year. And then would have had a chance to test free agency once again, of course, and get that longer-term deal he was looking for. I believe it was the Nationals also offered him during the season last year 10 years for $300 million, and he declined it. Instead, this offseason, when a move that kind of puzzles me a little bit, went with the Philadelphia Phillies for 13 years and $330 million. It's an insane number. It's a huge contract number. And I do think that definitely the Phillies got better because of it. But the question for me with Bryce Harper is if you're wanting to... I just don't understand his position here. He wants to go with money. Why? Or let's say he wants long-term security. Then why wouldn't you go to the Nationals, the team that drafted you, the team you've had a chance, the best chance to win a World Series with? Go and take that $300 million deal and just get to stay with that consistency. But if money is the most important thing, the Los Angeles Dodgers at 4 years, $45 million a year. So for Philadelphia, you could have taken a 10-year deal for $300 million or a 13-year deal for $330 million. It just doesn't seem to add up. Of course, my co-host Isaiah Addair are going off to meet with a professor right now, so he will be gone for the rest of the broadcast, but I will still be here for a few minutes just to get a few things out of the way. So, of course, like I said, the Washington Nationals missing out on Bryce Harper. He will go to the Philadelphia Phillies for the next 13 years. No trade clause, of course, as well. So that means that the Phillies cannot trade him. They will keep him on their books for a good amount of time until they come up with a trade that he is okay with and says, all right, let's pull the trigger. So Bryce Harper in Philadelphia for a long time. Nolan Arenado for the Colorado Rockies was another example. Got a big contract extension from them. The third baseman, who I believe has won 2 or 3 straight Gold Gloves in the National League, will go back to Colorado. And that's a team that still looks pretty good right now. Charlie Blackmon, Trevor Story, Arenado, of course. That is a team that could be a sleeper coming up in the NL West with the Los Angeles Dodgers. But, of course, like I said, Arenado, we still have some notable free agents out there. And now that Machado, of course, Manny Machado, a $300 million deal for 10 years with the San Diego Padres earlier in this offseason. Both Machado and Harper being off the block might lead to more teams reaching out to some of the other great talent that they have in free agency. Of course, Craig Kimbrell, like I said, Craig Kimbrell is still around. We still have Dallas Keuchel, the former ace with the Houston Astros, just 2 years removed from being the number 2 pitcher on a World Series team. So I expect some team to give him a chance. some teams maybe like the New York Mets or the Atlanta Braves. I still think the NL East is going to be just absolutely ridiculous this year with, of course, the Philadelphia Phillies getting Bryce Harper on their deal, and the Nationals are still a good basketball team, or excuse me, a good baseball team. The Nationals are still pretty good. The Braves, obviously, the repeat NL East champions, and then you have the New York Mets that are an interesting team as well. I made a lot of acquisitions this year, and that's going to be a tough team, but it's sad to be the Marlins in the NL East. The NL Central is still going to be tough. We're taking a look at spring training right now as well. We're seeing some interesting results from minor league players. Of course, Tim Tebow, it's only a matter of time. A lot of fans are saying that he's going to get promoted up to the MLB team. But anyways, you take a look at the NL Central, the Cubs, the Cardinals, the White Sox. And the White Sox are still not going to be great, but they're still making their way back to relevancy. The Milwaukee Brewers being the repeat NL Central champions, the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's going to be a lot of fun in the National League this year. And, of course, the AL, you can't forget about the Red Sox. You can't forget about the Yankees. You can't forget about the Astros. It's going to be some tough teams going on right there. You still have the Los Angeles Angels with Shohei Ohtani coming back this year, Mike Trout, Albert Pujols. There's still a cream of talent coming in to this upcoming year. And baseball is going to be in for a fun time coming up in this upcoming season. So, my hot take of the week, of course, as I said, I've been trying to do that a little bit more lately. I'm sticking with baseball, and it's going to be what I mentioned earlier. My hot take for the week is that Bryce Harper made the wrong move by going to the Philadelphia Phillies. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad move. I think the Phillies are still an underrated baseball team. They're still going to be in contention for the NL East. Of course, I believe the top two teams are going to be them and the Atlanta Braves. Only time will tell with the season, though. My hot take, though, is I feel that he would have been better off to take the deal from Los Angeles, because as I don't like the Dodgers. I am not a fan of the Los Angeles Dodgers. But when you take a look at their roster, when you take a look at the moves they made this offseason, Bryce Harper would have fit in great with them. Of course, you get to play in the bright lights of LA. You get to play in the bright lights of Hollywood, of course. But right field is open for you. Yasiel Puig traded to the Cincinnati Reds earlier this offseason. The outfield is still going to be great. You're still going to have some young players like Cody Bellinger, Clayton Kershaw still around, Chris Taylor. Just a great set of talent at LA and a great chance to potentially go back to the World Series for the third straight year. And I know, again, it's only 4 years. It's only 4 years with the Dodgers, but you still get paid a ton. And if your production stays the same, then you get to go and test free agency one more time. That's my hot take for the week. I feel that the better spot for Bryce Harper would have been the Los Angeles Dodgers and not the Philadelphia Phillies. But again, still a good deal for both sides, and I do believe that it's still going to be a move that shapes the MLB for the next upcoming decade. Well, that is going to do it here on Hot Takes with Holmes here from Radio Free Radford. If you like what you heard today, then be sure to like our Facebook page, where we'll update all that goes on here on Hot Takes with Holmes, from updates on show times to whenever our broadcasts are uploaded. We'll let you know on our Facebook page. Speaking of broadcasts, we're also on YouTube. Our channel is at Hot Takes with Holmes on both Facebook and YouTube. We upload all of our broadcasts. So if you missed something earlier and you want to go back and watch this broadcast, or you want to come back and listen to some of our older broadcasts, you can certainly do that on our YouTube channel. And once again, Hot Takes with Holmes on both sites. If you like what you heard on Radio Free Radford and you want to support the stations, then the Twitter is at Radio Free Raddy. Instagram and Facebook are Radio Free Radford. That's, once again, the Twitter is at Radio Free Raddy. Instagram and Facebook are Radio Free Radford. Be sure to like and follow those social media pages to be able to keep up with the great content that comes out of the station, and just to support the station that's run by the students here at Radford University. But with that being said, that's going to do it for me. For my co-host Isaiah Addair, I'm Blake Holmes, and we'll see you next week here on Radio Free Radford.